It was supposed to be just another sleepy summer morning. June 10th, 1912. A small town in Iowa, where people left their doors unlocked, where kids ran barefoot to the dirt roads, and where the worst thing you could imagine was maybe a bad thunderstorm ruining the crops. But by noon, Villisca would become a name whispered in fear for over a century. It started when Mary Peckham, the elderly neighbor of the Moore family, noticed something odd. The usually busy house across the yard was quiet. Too quiet. No children running outside. No one feeding the chickens. No one at all. She knocked. No answer. She called out. Silence. What she didn't know was that every person inside the house was already dead. 8 people. All murdered in their sleep. All bludgeoned to death with an axe. Some of them children. And the killer? Never caught. But here's what most people don't know. What the newspapers didn't print and what historians try to explain away. The real horror of the Villisca Axe House didn't end in 1912. People who visited the house since say it's like something stayed behind. Something angry. Something watching. One of those people was Megan. She was 23 when she and her boyfriend took a weekend ghost tour through Iowa. They weren't looking for thrills. They genuinely believed in the paranormal and thought the Villisca house might offer some kind of connection to the past. What they got was something else entirely. They arrived just before sunset, the sky glowing orange behind the old White House. It looked normal from the outside. Cute, even, like something from a postcard. Inside, it was different. Megan described the air as feeling thicker than outside. Not humid, not musty, just heavy. She said the moment they walked into the children's bedroom upstairs, something in her stomach flipped. Her boyfriend joked nervously, trying to lighten the mood, but Megan wasn't laughing. She felt a pressure on her chest, like someone was sitting on it. They were alone in a room, standing quietly, when she said she heard a whisper, right next to her ear. It was a child's voice, just one word. Hide. She turned, expecting to see her boyfriend playing a prank, but he was across the room, eyes wide, pale as a sheet. He had heard it too. They ran out of the room, down the creaky stairs, and stopped only when they were outside, gasping for breath in the cool air. That night, back at their motel, Megan had a dream, or what she hoped was a dream. She was standing in the Moore house, alone. Everything was dark, but she could hear footsteps, slow, dragging footsteps, from upstairs. She couldn't move, couldn't scream, just stood there as the steps got louder, closer, and then she saw him. Not his face, just the silhouette of a tall man, holding something heavy, an axe, blood dripping from it. He didn't walk. He glided toward her, and then she woke up, only she wasn't in her bed. She was sitting in the corner of the motel room, in the dark, crying, with deep red scratches down her arms. Megan never went near Villisca again. You might think she imagined it, that the house just got under her skin, but she's not the only one. In 2014, a man staying overnight in the house, part of a paranormal investigation group, stabbed himself in the chest. No one knows why. He lived barely. But to this day, he won't talk about what happened before he did it. Locals say the house is cursed, that whatever evil came through that night in 1912 never left. Some say it was a demon. Others think the killer returned again and again, feeding off the energy, growing stronger. There's even a theory that the killer wasn't human at all. A dark presence has been felt by dozens of visitors. People faint. Cameras fail. Objects move. Some claim they've been touched, scratched, even pushed. And always there's that feeling that you're not alone in that house. And maybe you never were. Would you ever step inside that house? Because if you do, if you ever find yourself on that quiet Iowa street, staring at the White House with the dark windows, don't stay too long. And whatever you do, don't go upstairs. They arrive with night vision cameras, EMF detectors, digital recorders, the works. 3 friends who ran a small but growing YouTube paranormal channel. They called themselves Night Watch. They didn't believe in ghosts. Not really. They believed in views. And the Villisca Axe House? It had potential. History, murder, and mystery, all wrapped in one. perfect for a weekend investigation. They booked the place for a Saturday night. The owner handed them the keys, gave the usual nervous warnings, and told them to call if anything went wrong. What could go wrong in a house where 8 people were murdered in their sleep? Everything. The trio, James, Troy, and Vanessa, started filming right away. The intro was cheerful, almost mocking. "Welcome to the House of Horror," Troy said, flashing a grin at the camera. "Tonight, we're going to find out if these ghosts can keep up with us." James set up cameras in each room, one in the parents' bedroom, one in the children's room, one in the hallway, and one downstairs in the kitchen. Vanessa was in charge of audio. They agreed to do their first spirit box session at midnight, right where the more children were murdered. At 11:58 p.m., the footage shows all 3 of them sitting on the wooden floor, the spirit box hissing between bursts of static. Vanessa asked the first question, "Is anyone here with us?" The answer came fast. A distorted voice. "Yes." Troy chuckled nervously. "Okay, good one. Anyone else hear that?" James nodded, trying to stay cool. Vanessa continued. "Can you tell us your name?" Static, then a pause. And then, "Lena." They all froze. Lena Stillinger was one of the children murdered in the house, just 8 years old. James's hand started shaking. "Is there something you want to tell us?" Vanessa asked. Silence. Then a new voice. Deeper. Not a child. "Go. Upstairs." The 3 stared at each other. The tone of that voice was different. Commanding. Angry. James stood up and grabbed a handheld camera. "All right, let's go." "Wait! Before we take you upstairs into the horror. Ghosts, if you've made it this far, that means you love real, chilling stories that aren't just told, but felt. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications bell. We dive into true haunted locations like this one every week. And trust me, what's coming next? You'll want to be here for it. All right, back to Villisca. The footage from the upstairs hallway is shaky. James's breathing is heavy. Troy keeps turning around like he's hearing things behind him. They go into the children's room. It's cold. The camera picks up the temperature drop. And then they hear footsteps. From the attic, there's no one else in the house. James walks over and slowly pulls the attic door. It creaks open. Nothing visible. Just darkness. Suddenly, the upstairs hallway camera, set up earlier, cuts out. Static. They don't know this yet. Vanessa says, "Something's not right. I feel like..." And the audio cuts off. The next few seconds on the footage are almost too surreal to explain. The camera that James is holding catches a reflection of something in the bedroom window behind them. Not a person. A shape. Tall. Thin. No features. Just shadow. Standing directly behind them. None of them saw it at the time. But when James uploaded the footage the next day, viewers noticed. Thousands of comments. People zooming in. Highlighting. One wrote, "That wasn't a reflection. That thing was inside the room." What's worse, at exactly 12:34 a.m., every single camera died. All the files after that point were corrupted. The only thing recovered was 3 seconds of audio, distorted breathing, a scream, and then a whisper. Still here. James deleted the channel a week later. Troy stopped responding to messages. Vanessa disappeared from social media completely. When asked about it later in a short podcast appearance, James only said one thing. "We thought we were chasing ghosts, but we were invited, and we overstayed." The Villisca Axe House isn't just haunted, it's hungry. Every few years, someone new comes looking for proof, and leaves with something they can't explain, sometimes with something that follows them home. And some never leave at all. Some curses don't wait for you to come knocking. Some reach out, through walls, through screens, through time. That's what happened to Dylan. And to this day, he still doesn't understand how. He never stepped foot in the Villisca Axe House. He never even drove past it. All he did was watch. He was 19, a film student, obsessed with true crime, haunted locations, and the dark corners of the internet. He stumbled across an old, unlisted YouTube video titled "Night Inside Villisca Full Footage, Uncut." The upload date was 2012. It had less than 500 views. There was no channel name. No comments. No description. He clicked. The video opened on static. Then grainy footage of someone walking through a house. Flashlight shaking. Muffled breathing. Occasional whispers. It looked fake. Staged. But something about it felt off. Too real. Dylan watched the full 47 minutes. And that's when everything changed. The night after he watched it, he started having nightmares. Not just dreams. Visions. He was in the house. But the rooms were wrong. The walls seemed to stretch. The lights flickered red. And in every dream, the same thing happened. He'd walk into the children's bedroom and find them standing there. All 6 of them. Staring at him. Bleeding. But what disturbed him most wasn't that they were dead. It was that they recognized him. Like he belonged there. Like they'd been waiting for him. He'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat. But the dreams kept coming. Every night. Always the same. Until one night, something changed. He didn't wake up. Not until morning. And when he did, he wasn't in his bed. He was curled up on the floor of his apartment kitchen. In the same fetal position he had seen one of the Stillinger girls lying in during the dreams. He never sleepwalked before that. The next day, Dylan's camera turned on by itself. Not the one on his phone. The DSLR on his desk. It clicked. Word. Recorded. Without anyone touching it. He checked the file. It was him. Just him. Sitting at his desk. Until the last 5 seconds, when something moved behind him in the reflection of the turned-off TV screen. He paused. Rewound. Played it again. A figure. Same as before, tall, dark, and faceless. That was the moment Dylan knew this wasn't just a dream. So he did what any scared, rational person would. He deleted the video from his history. Tried to block it out. Told himself it was just a vivid hallucination. And for a while, it worked. Until a week later, when he got an email. No subject. No sender. Just one line of text. Still watching. There was no attachment. But the body of the email had a white pixel in the corner, barely noticeable. He forwarded it to a friend in computer science. She opened it on a secure system and told him something bone-chilling. The pixel wasn't an image. It was a tracker. Whoever sent the email could now see where Dylan was whenever he opened any message. That night, he smashed his laptop, bought a new one, moved across the city, changed his number. But the dreams kept coming. He saw things. People standing outside his apartment, just out of view, lights turning on in rooms he wasn't in, the reflection in the mirror, looking back a half-second too slow. Then one day, the dream stopped, and that should have been good news. But it wasn't, because now Dylan feels nothing. No fear, no joy, just this emptiness, like something hollowed him out and left him walking around as a shell. He doesn't sleep, doesn't eat much. He's cold all the time, and every now and then, he hears a soft creaking above him, like footsteps. Even when he's not living on the top floor, the Villisca Axe House didn't need Dylan to visit. He gave it permission with his attention. Some say the house is a portal. Others say it's a living entity, reaching into the world through media, dreams, memory. If that's true, maybe you've already let it in. You've heard its story. You've followed the trail. You've imagined the creaking floors, the whispers, the faces. Maybe you're next. But hey, just a story, right? They called her the Collector. That wasn't her real name, of course. Her real name was Emily Hastings, a quiet woman in her early 60s who lived just outside of Villisca, retired librarian. No kids, no family, just stacks of antique books and decades worth of handwritten journals. No one knew what she was really doing all those years. Not until after she died. In 2019, a young couple bought her house at auction. It was dusty, overgrown, and filled with furniture wrapped in yellowed sheets. The attic was locked. The basement had no light. But it wasn't the house that terrified them. It was what they found in the hidden drawer of her writing desk. There, wrapped in brown wax paper, were 12 VHS tapes, each labeled with dates. Some going back as far as 1983. None of them had titles. Just times. Like 3:17 a.m. or 12:42 a.m. The couple didn't own a VHS player, so they borrowed one from the local thrift store. They plugged it into their TV and slid in the first tape. What they saw changed them forever. The footage was grainy, old, silent, just a fixed camera angle showing a room. But not just any room. It was a Villisca axe house. You could tell by the window frames, the wallpaper, the floorboards. Each tape was the same. A different date, a different time, but always the same thing. A room in the house. Always at night. And always something moving just out of frame. A flicker, a shadow, a reflection in the glass. One tape was particularly disturbing. Dated October 11th, 1991, 2:01 a.m. It showed the children's bedroom. For 30 minutes, nothing moved. And then suddenly, one of the dolls on the shelf, something that hadn't been there before, turned its head. There was no cut, no hand, just a movement. Then the screen went black. The next morning, the couple called the sheriff's department. But by the time officers arrived, the tapes were gone. The player was melted from the inside out. No signs of fire, just warped plastic, like it had been exposed to extreme heat, without affecting anything else in the room. And on the wall, in faint white chalk, someone had written, "Memory is a doorway. Keep it closed." They moved out the same day. But what's wild is this. Emily Hastings had never been inside the Villisca house. Not once. She wasn't a ghost hunter. She didn't even believe in the paranormal. So, how did she get the tapes? And why did she keep them hidden? A local historian who'd known Emily in passing came forward with a strange detail. He said she used to write letters. Dozens every week. But never mailed them. He saw one once, years ago, slip between pages of a library book. It read, "I can feel them through the ink, through the film. They're not stuck in the house. They're inside the story. The more it's told, the more they remember how to get out." What does that even mean? Could it be that the Villisca horror isn't just tied to a place, but to the telling itself? That every time someone speaks the names, Lena, Sarah, Josiah, every time someone walks through that store in their head, imagines the rooms, imagines a night, they bring it back? Maybe that's why the killer was never caught. Why no one ever saw his face? Because maybe he wasn't just a man. Maybe he was a story. And stories don't die. They just wait to be retold. Emily understood that. She stopped telling it. She locked the memories away. She lived in silence. But now, we've said the names again. We've traced the footsteps. And we've brought it all back into the light. So if your room feels colder tonight, if your lights flicker just once before bed, if you hear a faint knock when there's no one at the door, just remember, you kept listening. And it heard you.